Unstoppable Doom Patrol #1 is upon us. The Matt Sardo, Monkeys Fighting Robots, the panel breakdown. I've been looking forward to this issue for a long time. One, I'm a huge fan of Chris Burnham's work, and I've watched the show, so I got a little background of Doom Patrol. Again, if you're looking for a comic book historian, that's not me. What I like to do is look at the art and see what the art's doing and see what they're trying to communicate to us. So I can't remember everything and all the different things that are going on. That's what Wikipedia is for. So I hope you had a great new comic book week. Let's dive into this. Cover, love the colors. This blue and yellow really pops. I wanted to say Metal Man. You got Robotman right here up in the center, and he's like right there in your face. And you got everybody kind of like bouncing out of it. Very action-packed, very exciting. You're like, okay, let's get it on. I do like the purple right here. I like the way that Burnham put his name in the cuff right here. It's a really good cover. I like everything about it. It works really well. Now let's see who's working on this book. Oh, maybe not. So right away, you're going to have a crazy wild book. You got a cyborg gorilla, and then you get a real gorilla, and then you have like zombies. And I like how like the detail on this zombie is like all like in your face. It's really in focus. And then the farther you go out, like they're a little less focused, but you have this to remember. So you put this face on these characters in the back, and I think it blends in well. And it's like the angle of it. And then you got a nice page turn here, contrast of color. Boom. This page, glorious. Because I'm going to butcher everybody. Got Robotman, Negative Man, Elasti-Woman, the Chief, and introducing Beast Girl. We got Dennis Culver as the writer, Chris Burnham as the artist, Brian Reber, colorist, and Pat Brosseau is the letterer. I like this Doom Patrol thing. I like everything about it. The world's strangest superheroes are saving the world by saving the monsters. So you know it's going to be like a really cool, funky book if they're saving the monsters. Again, I like this big setup. And then here, I will talk about this a lot. I like the 6-panel grid. And this is 3 of them right here. But you set up Gotham City. Got this nice color going on here that matches the tone. And then the setup and then the punchline. Gotham City, setup, I hate this town. I don't know why Robotman hates this town, but he hates this town. And this is used Chris uses this a couple times in the book where the panel is just across, it's like a half double page spread. So it gives you the scope of the city and everything that goes on and makes you want to just like, where's Waldo the whole entire page and see what's going on. Yogurt Town. Why is Yogurt Town closed? And you got some things going on over here in the background. Like, what does all this mean? And then the page flows this way. And you have a nice solid 4 panels to kind of explain what's going on. You introduce all the characters. You get everybody in line. And then you get to a nice page turn. Like, she's even walking to the page turn. Oh, yeah. Look at that. She's having a tantrum. And you're like, oh, tantrum, blah, 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 blah. And then you're like, boom. Monsters falling from the sky. And I love this perspective here. This is really good. Like, I'm looking up at these guys falling on top of me. That's how I feel. Cthulhu. I really like this letter work right here. It stands out and it's different, but it also like works for the page. And then once action starts to hit, the panels start getting funky to add to the chaos. Then we flip back to the gorillas. Again, another action scene going on. And look, you got a nice angle panel here. And everything is kind of non-traditional, which leads up to the action. And then this angle leads you this way, which leads you up. So like you come down, you're up, down, down, across, over. Like that's a nice. This is my favorite panel on the page right here. So we're talking, we're looking down here, and then this guy's looking back up, and he sees this gentleman. So like the perspective of the camera angle is done really well. But I like this panel right here. This cross section, you get the villain here and all his wrinkles and everything like that. And you're like, oh, this guy's disgusting. And then his like nose and chin point down to this nastiness right here. Like, this works really well. Like technologically advanced brain, gorilla, and then you get into this like human, and then just the way his everything moves is right into this like nasty. Look at that. This nastiness. It grosses me out. And then also I'm impressed because everything kind of lines up to make me look at this panel. Like you're following this panel down. You're following his head down. Everything makes you look at this gross, nasty panel. Ah, it's disgusting. Like it is, but it's also my favorite thing of the book is how Chris directs you towards the nastiness. And it's like, here you go. Here's all the nastiness. You get the nastiness, and the nastiness is disgusting. And enjoy all the nastiness. That's what Chris is saying. And he's just laughing the whole time. He's like, I'm going to make the nastiest panel ever. And then it's also angled to make you go to the page turn. But also the nastiness makes you run. And you're like, oh, I'm going to run over here. You got the build up, action, wham. And you have the plot twist. And then you slide over here. And Chris does it again. Another Where's Waldo panel, as I call it. Half page, double page spread, where you get the scope of the city, the scope of the chaos. And then Mr. Negative kind of leads you through the chaos. That's really good. That's done really well. Got all these monsters, things going on. And you just start hitting all the different details of what's going on. And then you see how vast the city is. You have these nice 4 panels that like lead the story. And the color really pops in this book. I do like the paper. Again, I've mentioned this before. I do like the paper that DC is using right now. It's got a little gloss, but it's also matte enough. Okay, so you have this like nice angle down here. She's looking down. The chief transitions into her. And like you're going down. He's scared. And you're like, okay, I'm going to put my hand on this black area right here, and I'm going to turn. And you're like, what the shit? And it's not even like, it's a full page, what the shit moment of shock value, of color, of in your face. Your whole brain is like, why does she not have a face? And then they go straight to this giant eyeball with all these details and everything. And then you shift back up, and then look, the color's different, everything's different. And then you go back, and there's this transformation again. But like the colors they used were pretty spectacular, and like the angles were used. And then you have this nice angle leading to a page turn, and then like I like that things aren't straight and narrow, and everything pushes this way, like because these radiation barrier, radiant circles kind of just push everything this way, which leads you to this. Like there's a lot of movement on this. Her eyes move in this way. Got the little black in the background. Makes you transition to the white. And again, like you put your eyes look here, and then you look up straight to like giant monster. And that's who they were talking about the previous page. And it's like a nice angle into this, pushing down. And then, so to set up, establishing the joke, set up, then the payoff. Grr, eyeball open, snap. Nice reaction. Look at the color bouncing off it. You can feel the movement. And I do like, some panels are like super detailed, and then you have this panel where it stands out. Like this conversation would have gotten blended in if the background of the city was there, or more of this was there. But this is like a 2-part conversation right here because of the white and the colors. And then you drift down here, Robotman and Beast Girl, and look at all the nice little details in Robotman. Bounce down, and her feet like point this way to the turn, and then actually the off page. You're like, oh, what's gonna happen here? It wouldn't be Chris Burnham if he didn't draw you some Batman and Robin. You have Batman swooping in. You got nice movement as him coming this way. Establish the scope of Gotham City. You have the intensity of this panel because it's like off kilt, and the argument ensues, and then it goes back and forth as the fight goes on. And then Batman realizes what's going on. He's like, oh, she's making a good point. Look at all this, how it all transitions through the back and forth, and then Batman realizing it. And then also the art of him, like his facial expression of like, oh, shit, I get it now. That's really solid. And it's black, stands out because it's Batman. And then you have another pop of color. You go from Batman and browns to like this blue and teal and like greenish color and purple. And again, another panel that like would have blended in if you tried to do everything else was going on in the city. And then also makes these guys stand out for running. Like that's good. I like that. Because it's not like Chris is not giving you enough detail in the other panels. But this non-color really makes this stand out. So it must be important. Must be important if it's standing out. I don't think you had to put the Flash in there for us to realize who she was talking. The only regular member of the team with an active metagene is too fast to ever be caught. I mean, I guess that's, you have to know it's the Flash, but I mean, like, if you have the Flash commercial on this side, it kind of feels like you're talking about the Flash. I like this nice rule of thirds that Chris is using here. Robin stands out, Batman's there, and then everything's like well balanced out on this panel. And then this is a really good like shrinking panel. Big huge monster, smaller panel. This guy's getting smaller, and then same size panel. This guy's smaller again, but like there's a lot of movement. You can feel the getting down. And then after this panel, they're looking down. And like, wow, this just kind of just flows right down into their eyeballs right here, looking down at the monster. And you come across, and there he is. And this rock kind of gives you a nice page turn piece. This reminds me of like an Eric Larson kind of layout going on here. Looking down, make you draw back up, and then the words direct you this way. Look at that right there. All the lettering kind of just drifts you to this corner. Stoic Batman and Robin heading out of town. But look at the lettering. It just draws your eye and rolls everything here. Even though you have some color pop in here, but everything just wants to drift towards this corner. And look, this is red. Must be important. Oh, this red follows Peacemaker. Interesting. And I'm like, what does all this mean? This is where I get confused. I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. But establishing shot. I like these 6-panel grid size boxes. I feel like you get a lot of communication across dialogue, but you also give the artist enough room to breathe. And you go back up to the action. You go across. Nice S movement to it. Foot here. This must be important. It's in white, as we're seeing before. Boom, smush. And then he loves his angled panels. And you get the creepy guy one more time to like fall asleep to. This is a fun book. This is a lot of fun. I think this book it's a comic book. It has so many fun panels, so many fun moments, craziness, action, banter, all these different things. I would highly recommend this book. I think Dennis, the writer, sets this up really well. Chris has a lot of fun with it. Brian with the colors, I think he balances out Chris's work really well. And then Pat did a really good job with the lettering, guiding you. You don't need a lot, but this is here, and it just drifts you down to here. You don't need a lot to guide the eye, and you don't need a lot to. Sometimes you get too much in lettering, and then you distract the eye. But everything worked really well in this book, and you have a nice white page here in the beginning, which means it's important. So you're like, okay, this is important. Here's all your characters setting you up. And then you go into your comic book. So every time there's like a nice white panel in the comic book, you're like, okay, this must be important, or it's helping me read the book, or it's helping me establish what's going on, or helping me like guide my eye into something. Because they don't use a lot. They use it at the beginning. This kind of stands out a little bit. That's the heel turn. So I guess that is important. Okay, so this just explains here. So that's important. Explains what the heck just happened. So this kind of explains powers. That's kind of important. This is setting up a moment, so this is important. Yes, they don't overuse it, but it's definitely, when it's there, it works really well. Hi guys, I'm Matt Sardo. This is Monkeys Fighting Robots, the panel breakdown. Unstoppable Doom Patrol #1 is the book that we're featuring today or this week. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments below. Like and subscribe. You guys make this channel happen, so I appreciate everything you guys do, and have a great weekend.